Welcome to CS Radio. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 225 of CS Radio. I'm Jay Michael DeAngelis. Natty Leach is not here. Natty had a conference this week, so he is taking some time to recuperate from that, but I am not flying solo. I am here with my newest colleague. Welcome, Hannah Smith, to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So, Hannah, how long have you been with Career Services? Just a short while.
Just a little bit, about 2.5 months now. I think it'll be 3 months in a week or so.
Wow.
So, not very long.
That's great. So we threw you right onto the podcast, like we love to do.
Yes.
So what tells everyone what your role is here?
I am the newest administrative coordinator for the graduate and postdoc career advising team.
Amazing. So fans of CS Radio will remember Lisa. She actually co-hosted the show right before she left. She subbed in for me one day.
Oh, really?
She had said to me at a career fair, I would love to co-host the show sometime. I was like, great. And then she did it and took off. But she got her wish and was like, okay, now I've done everything.
Wonderful.
So what does we're going to talk a lot because one of the main goals of the show is to really explore people's different career paths. But before we dive into your story, tell us a little bit about what your role entails here.
So primarily I am helping to facilitate a lot of the career fairs. I help out with the career advising appointments as well. And then actually a large part of my role that's probably more specific to me than it is to the role in general is I do a lot of design work as well. So I kind of have my fingers in a lot of different pies in that way.
So do you have a background in design?
I do. Well, not graphic design specifically, but I actually have a background in illustration. So I do have an artistic eye, and I am familiar with programs like Canva and Illustrator and Photoshop and all
that stuff that we use.
Yep.
And I know very early on, right away, we were like, we've got all these new whiteboards in this building.
Yes.
And we had you drop a very fancy sign.
Yes.
For our open house.
That is actually something that I've done previously as well. So I was excited to get to do some whiteboard art.
Fantastic.
Once again.
Well, so tell us what your story is. How did you end up in career services? I know you were also previously in banking, and you've got a fine arts background, so it sounds interesting. I've had a very varied career myself, so I'm always curious to hear how people end up here in career services.
Yeah, I've been a bit all over the map when it comes to my career path. So if you want in chronological order, I got my bachelor's of illustration, and then after that I moved from the arts world. I realized that I wanted to keep that as a hobby or something that I could kind of sprinkle in like seasoning to my career, but I didn't want that to be my dominant career path. So I actually went into administration with a nonprofit after that. So I worked as the operations coordinator for a nonprofit in the Philly suburbs called Variety. And it is a summer camp that works with children and young adults with disabilities. So I was in charge of helping the facilities team manage the grounds. It's a 77-acre campus. I was doing office management for our tiny little cabin that functioned as the main office. And then I leased out the rest of the campus in our off season. So obviously we weren't leasing in the middle of the summer. We were using it. But in the fall and winter, we had a lot of outside groups that would lease different areas of the campus, and I was in charge of that. I got to learn a lot about insurance liability and things like that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was a fun aspect of the job.
I'm actually dealing with that right now because I've been trying to rent an event space, and so what the various insurance requirements are of some spaces versus others is and like, do you need it when you book? Do you need it by the time the event happens? It's a whole wild world.
And different types of events require different kinds of liability and all of that. So if your event had alcohol, you needed to have a whole different slew of things. So yeah, that was a fun job that I had for a while. And then unfortunately the big bad pandemic hit, and nonprofits, especially when part of your job is leasing a campus. Yeah, it's not the most essential position. So unfortunately I was, let go in that time, which was a bummer. But then I moved to State College and that's when I started in banking. So for a little bit, I had like odd jobs here and there as like serving. I don't really count that as like my career
Just
path.
something to get by.
Truly. But then I had a close friend who started working with a local bank in the area, and he was telling me about it, and I said, hey, that sounds way more like the kind of work that I like doing. And so he put in a good word for me. I interviewed. They offered me the job the same day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really, really awesome. And then I stayed there for 2 years, and I got to pick up a lot of really cool banking information. I got to learn how to open accounts. I got to learn how to operate within the CDARS system, which has to do with FDIC insurance and a whole bunch of other banking jargon that nobody cares about.
Except bankers.
Except for bankers, yeah. So I got to kind of function as the assistant manager for one of the busiest branches in State College, which was also really cool. And then eventually it came time for me to leave State College, which it was 3 years, which is about as much time as I think anybody needs to spend in State College. And I wanted to come back home, and my family lives in Philly, so I managed to come back. As I was coming back, I coordinated with a family friend who owned a small business, and she had me come in, and I got to do operations again. So I got to help out there, and I did things like appointment management, scheduling, stuff like that. But I also did some larger projects like event coordination. I got to help out with our marketing endeavors. I was the only person in there that wasn't, it was a hair salon, so I was the only person in there that wasn't touching anybody's head. So I did everything that didn't involve touching other people's heads, except for like payroll.
That involves touching people's heads?
Yes, you have to come up to everybody and really get in there just to know what their hours are. It would psychically transfer the pay. But no, I didn't handle payroll, but I still got to kind of tidy up everybody's hours and stuff like that. So I did help with that in some degree. And then as I was there, I was thinking about, kind of what direction I wanted to go for a career, not just as a job. So working in operations at the small business was really nice, but I knew there were like 6 employees. That's not a lifelong kind of endeavor. So I started looking around. When I was living in State College, I remember talking to some of my friends and knowing that like I would really think it would be cool to work for Penn State because I was living there. And eventually my friend who got me in with the bank, he left the bank to work for Penn State. He's working there now. So I knew that was kind of a field that I was interested in, a line of work that I kind of wanted to explore. And so I started looking at the Penn job boards on Workday. Penn is my mother's alma mater, so I have some like familial ties to Penn, some deep-seated affection for the university.
Me as well, yes.
Yep. So that was my first choice when it came to wanting to work in higher education. Obviously I kind of threw my hat in the ring at other universities around because eggs in one basket and all that, but I was pretty dead set on trying to get into Penn. And so it took a couple of months of me looking around. I found the career services application, and I read through it, and it seemed to hit everything that I really liked about the type of work that I do. I got to do some design stuff. I got to do administration. I got to see all of these. I got to do event coordinating, all of that stuff, and it just seemed like the gold star, perfect role. So I sat down and I spent 8 hours to write the cover letter of all time. So
okay.
I
we love a cover letter.
Oh yes, I slaved over this cover letter. I reread it 15,000 times, rewrote it a couple of times. I wanted to make sure that it was as good and tailored as I possibly could.
What was your hook?
I led in with the fact that I had done in some way pretty much everything that it had asked for.
Okay.
And wanted to really showcase the fact that I had a really colorful and varied background, and that I could kind of function as a jack of all trades, so that if I didn't know a certain program, I wanted to showcase that I had been able to learn programs in other jobs and flourish that way. So I didn't know Handshake, and we use Handshake a lot. I didn't know Handshake prior to starting here, and I connected that to the fact that I didn't know how to use banking software, but I ended up being the top account opener using that software in that position. So I tried to, my hook was other than, having the family background, but other than having the family background, I really emphasized the fact that I am kind of a Swiss Army knife of an employee.
Well, I mean, I think that's a fantastic tack to take. I certainly can recall when I first applied for a job here, having long conversations in the interview about what my theater background meant for being. In fact, I had your job. Your job was the first job I had here. Yes, I was back then. It was the administrative assistant for the graduate team. So that was the very first job I had here, and I've had 3. That was the same conversation. It was like, what in my very theater-centric background lent me to doing this sort of administrative work. And, I think we're very lucky that because of the kind of work that our colleagues do, they are not only looking for that, they're very good at teasing it out of you. It certainly was for my experience that I maybe even hadn't fully fleshed that out for myself, and they were able to ask some leading questions that got me there. So it's really great to be in a spot where that's not just appreciated but sought after. We want people that have had really interesting different career paths, interesting backgrounds, different education levels, different upbringings. It's all it all benefits the work that we do because we deal with such a varied clientele, shall we say, right?
Yeah, it was a cool interview process as well, because I did get the sense that the fact that I had that diverse background was an asset, as opposed to, I know a lot of people would see my resume that is not exactly 100% tailored to higher education administration, right, and see that as a setback. And so I didn't view it that way. I viewed it as an asset, and it was really cool to talk to the team and know that they viewed it that way as well.
Yeah, it's really great when we can find those people that see ourselves the same way we do. Mm-hmm. What do you think? Going from each of your varied previous professions, you talked a little bit about the skills you picked up in banking and in running the small business. What about your art background? What do you think that, other than you can do design work for us, which is amazing, are there other hard skills or soft skills that you think your art background really brings to the job?
Oh, absolutely. I think the fact that I went to art school and have that background is one of the reasons that I'm as good of a problem solver as I am, because in my more advanced classes, we would sometimes be given just, it has to be made out of this material, which I actually had an advanced glass class, which of course it has to be made of glass, and other than that, do whatever you want. And glass is something that requires a lot of technical know-how.
Yeah.
And so other than writing a proposal and pitching it to my professor, I had to tell him how I wanted to make that thing happen. And so being able to kind of approach things from as many different angles, rotating the problem in your head, if that makes sense, and trying to find the best way to tackle it.
Makes total sense to me.
So that's something that I had to pick up pretty quickly when I was in art school, because sometimes really the only guidelines you have are make something. You have 4 weeks. And so that was, being able, I know saying like, I went to art school so I can think creatively sounds a little bit.
Well, but it's true. It's so true. That's the number one thing that I always lead off with,
mm-hmm.
With my theater background. I was like, well, my default mode is creative thinking, right?
Exactly.
I do much better than that, and then like solving a logic problem.
Right.
I could solve it illogically very easily.
Right.
And it has come in handy. And of course, the fact that we're sitting here doing a podcast, I think, speaks to a testament about how our colleagues value that sort of thing and value new ideas. And me saying, almost 10 years ago, what if we had a podcast? And my boss going, what's a podcast? Well, all right, go for it. Do one, and I'll let you know if I like it. And now here we are, and now we've got a studio, and now we're on video, and like it's so satisfying to me. I'm so grateful to have a job where, even though I'm not necessarily acting or writing a play for career services, I'm using the same sorts of skills by hosting this show, by doing some of our creative marketing and communications and leading our social media. I feel like I'm exercising those muscles in different ways.
Yeah, I get the same thing by being able to contribute to the design aspect of my position as well, where I'm not, illustrating what I usually do. I draw animals, which isn't super useful in this context, but I still get to kind of flex that creative muscle, that eye for 2D design. And it scratches the right itch in my brain, I guess, if that makes sense.
Makes complete sense. What have you found surprising about the job so far, if anything?
There's a lot that I found surprising. I'm still kind of acclimating, so everything is a bit new. So even though there's a lot that I have experience with in the broader kind of spectrum, this specific position is still really fun and interesting and new for me. So I feel like I get to discover something kind of every day. I think the biggest surprise for me was how friendly and collaborative the team was, especially surrounding like career fairs. That was my first career fair that I got to help out with was like 2 weeks into me starting. So
Well, you started right at the start of the semester,
right.
And that's career fair time.
Yup.
Yeah.
So I got to help out with that really, really early, and it was so much fun getting to do that career fair. It was the spring career fair, so it wasn't the one that I was helping coordinate. So I just got to kind of show up, but I dedicated my whole day to being there so that I could learn what that was like. And the way that everybody just kind of comes together and gels immediately was something that I've had teams that have gotten along in the past before and have been helpful to each other. I have never had a team that is so collaborative and so friendly and so willing to jump in for each other as this one is. And that was, it's not the nature of the position itself, but it was even something I got in the interview process that was really exciting for me, was seeing that kind of company culture. I know is another kind of buzz term, but getting to see that was really exciting for me, especially in the early days. I'm still in the early days. That doesn't really count.
Yeah, 3 months is still pretty early. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the 2 weeks early phase when I felt I was a career services baby, that was really, really cool for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you deal with so you're the two teams that you serve, that's like the entire graduate population of the school, more or less, with just very few exceptions. So it's a really wild and diverse group of people. You've got scientists, and you've got social scientists and humanities, school design people, masters of law people. I mean, it's all over the spectrum. So what have you found are some of the common things that those students share, or they're looking for from us, and what are some of the things that are wildly different?
So that's an interesting question. Let me think about that. So one of the kind of commonalities that I've seen, I saw it yesterday. I went on an employer trek to New York with a bunch of our doctorate students. They are so engaged, and it's always really cool getting to interact with our students. I don't have direct student contact as much as other people in the office do. Every time I do get to interact with them, they want to be there. They want to be present. They want to absorb as much practical knowledge as possible, and I find that really interesting in that population as well. So when I get to help out we have the Career Exploration Fellowship as well, how the kinds of questions that students ask, even when they have wildly different backgrounds, fields of study, all of that, there's this common goal that everybody's moving towards, and it's not just get a job. It's always more like how do I learn to showcase myself in the best way possible, and that's such an I guess refreshing point of view to see. I know a lot of people kind of see job hunting as a slog. Getting to talk to some of our graduate students and really dive into it, there's a passion to it, not just to the learning aspect, but to making sure that they get to showcase themselves to the best of their abilities. So that's something I've found is a commonality, even in just the handshake requests that I'll see of, how do I showcase who I am? And I see that pretty consistently. In all honesty, I haven't seen any completely wild differences in the way that our students reach out to us, depending on what school they're from or how they interact with me, depending on their field of study. In all honesty, Penn students are pretty nice. I like talking to them.
It's true.
Yeah. So even helping out with the different career fairs, the design career fair, the students that showed up to that came at it with the same kind of attitude and drive as the students I saw come to the STEM career fair, which is completely opposite.
Everybody
ends
wants
of
to
the
be able to
spectrum.
pursue their career, whatever their chosen field is.
Yes, exactly. But the passion, that drive, and all of that was the same throughout, which was really, really, refreshing, I guess is the best way to put it.
So, Hannah, we always like to ask our guests at the end of the program 2 standard questionnaire questions.
Okay.
So the first one is, if you could have any other job than the one you have, what would be your dream job?
That's such a good question.
It is a career podcast.
It is a career podcast. When it comes to like administration, I still think that I'm in the exploration phase. However, if I were to give you my completely bonkers yonkers dream job, this is something that this ties back to art school. I've always wanted to be the guy that sculpts the dinosaurs for museums.
That would be so much fun.
Right? It has nothing to do with administration, but
yeah, that would be pretty awesome. That would be pretty awesome. Dinosaur sculptor. All right, so now our second question. If you could have your own podcast, what would it be?
I have actually thought about this a lot because I do listen to podcasts. And a little funny background. So my stepdad is an author, and he writes about like oddities and stuff like that. And I've actually illustrated for some of his books. I'm not going to plug him here, but I have always wanted to do a kind of lore and oddities podcast where I get to talk to him or other people about folklore and cryptids and stuff like that. So I know a weird amount about like folklore dogs, which if you know me personally, the fact that I know a lot about like wolves and dogs is pretty
it's on brand.
Expected. Oh yeah. But I have a bunch of like weird oddities knowledge and curiosities knowledge. If you ever go to my house, I have very odd things in there. Like
I wish Natty were here because Natty's partner Emily is obsessed with this kind of stuff.
Oh,
she
wonderful.
Loves cryptids.
Yes.
They have gone to the Mothman Festival.
Yes. I almost went to that last year, and so I'm hoping to do it this year.
They loved it. So you can talk to Natty all about that.
Yeah.
Emily is that would be right. She would be your number 1 fan.
Perfect.
She'll be your first listener. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Well, Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We hope that we'll have you on again.
Yes, please.
It's really been great having you in the office. It's wonderful to be at full staff and to have such a great addition. You bring so many different things to the office. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
So thanks for coming by, and we'll see you all next time on CS Radio.
Bye.
This podcast is produced by the University of Pennsylvania Career Services Office, a division of University Life. It was created by J. Michael DeAngelis and Amy Lynn Kirshner. Your hosts and producers are J. Michael DeAngelis and Natty Leach, and it's produced, mixed, and edited by Lorna Lynn. If you like this podcast, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram and Threads at PennCareerServe. We'll see you next time on CS Radio.